Hey there, fella, with your hair colored yellow.
Hey there, mister. I didn't even kiss her. Just what you trying to prove?
This is a song full of amazing lyrics.
Yes, it is.
Of course, today we're going to do Lynyrd Skynyrd and Gimme Three Steps. Let me give you a little history about Lynyrd Skynyrd first. They're an American Southern rock band, or I like to refer to them more as just a good rock band. I don't really like the term Southern rock, but it's definitely used on them, and they're definitely the band that really spurred that sound, I guess, if you would. But they were formed in Jacksonville, Florida in 1964, which is kind of funny because they didn't really come to any kind of prominence until the early 70s. So they were around quite a while before that happened. The band obviously popularized the Southern rock sound and the music from it, but just a good all-around band. So originally, Lynyrd Skynyrd's band name was called My Backyard, which is kind of an interesting band name. And the band consisted of Ronnie Van Zant on vocals, Gary Rossington on guitar, Alan Collins on guitar, Larry Junstrom on bass, and Bob Burns on drums. They toured a lot of small venues, just playing little clubs and bars and things like that until about 1969, so for about 5 years, and that's when they changed their band name to Lynyrd Skynyrd. And another thing that's strange about this band, formed in 64, they didn't release their first album until 1973.
Oh.
So I don't know how a band held on for 9 years before they released an album.
It was just a weekend gig thing for them.
I guess. And of course, that first album was called pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd. So the band's lineup by that time had changed. They had added Leon Wilkinson on bass, Billy Powell on keyboard, and Ed King as guitarist. You had Bob Burns was replaced with Artemis Pyle in 1975. And then Ed King left the band in 1975 and was replaced by Steve Gaines. So in the 70s total, I mean, when we're talking about this band, it's really the early 70s, 73 to 77. They had a pretty short run, really, the initial popularity of this band. So a huge build up to that. And then they've been together for years since then, but let's be honest, they're a different band now. They released 5 studio albums there in the 70s, 1 live album, and 8 singles is all. They were certainly well known for their songs Sweet Home Alabama, Freebird, right? Everybody knows those songs. But their top single ever was actually Sweet Home Alabama. It hit only number 8 in the U.S., number 6 in Canada, and number 31 in the U.K. That's their top song.
I believe that.
Yeah, their first 5 albums all charted in the top 40, with their 5th studio album, Street Survivors, being their top charting album at number 5 in the U.S., number 3 in Canada, and number 13 in the U.K. Now, that's their top charting in the U.S. Their 3rd album, Gimme Back My Bullets, did hit number 1 in Canada. So that's their only number 1 song or album anywhere is Gimme Back My Bullets, their 3rd album hitting number 1 in Canada.
The Canadians just loved it.
I guess. And I think the Canadians were right.
Yeah.
All in all, Lynyrd Skynyrd has sold over 35 million albums worldwide, which is pretty decent for their short run. Of course, you can't talk about this band without talking about when history forever changed. October 20th of 1977, their chartered airplane, it crashed, killing the lead singer Van Zant, killed Steve Gaines and their backup singer Cassie Gaines, and seriously injured the rest of the band. I mean, there's a whole thing to look into. It was a crazy deal, and it kind of killed the short-lived popularity of this band at the time, because what they did in those first 4 years before the band was pretty much decimated is really what this band's known for today. The band did reform in 1987 again. Ronnie Van Zant's younger brother, Johnny Van Zant, took over the lead vocals and still touring today. There's been multiple lineups over the years. They have released several new albums, a ton of compilation albums, but nothing ever really lived up to the original lineup of the band, and you can see why. The music was just something else then. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003. Now, Billy Powell died in 2009. Bob Burns died in 2015, and the last original founding member, Gary Rossington, passed away in March of 2023. So a lot of death in this band. What they did leave behind in their short time was pretty amazing, in my opinion.
I'll say.
The one thing about them is, as much as they didn't really have a lot of hits, didn't release a lot of singles, there is still a lot of radio airplay from these guys to this day. A ton, including this song, yes. Do you want to get to the song review?
I do.
And now it's time for the song review.
So today we're going to do Lynyrd Skynyrd, Gimme Three Steps. Now this song was released on November 15th of 1973. It was written by Alan Collins, Gary Rossington, and Ronnie Van Zant, and sang by Ronnie Van Zant, of course. B-side of this song is a song called Mr. Banker. This was recorded at Studio One Studios in Doraville, Georgia, and produced by Al Kooper. Now, Al Kooper most famously was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. He was a studio musician in the 60s and 70s and has worked as a songwriter, record producer, worked with many famous artists, obviously Lynyrd Skynyrd. He's worked with The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, more than you can name. Al Kooper is a big name in the music business. Now, this song, Gimme 3 Steps, was one of the band's 9 songs chosen for their debut album. They actually had 14 songs in rotation, and they narrowed it down to 9 for pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd. In this song, pretty simple. The lyrics are pretty true. They're pretty easy to figure out, and apparently it was based off a real-life experience Ronnie Van Zant had while he was at a bar in Jacksonville, Florida. He was 18 years old at the time, and he had a gun pulled on him while dancing with another man's girl, and
Oh, that's crazy.
And it goes through all the lyrics here, and you can pretty much follow it. But he states that after that happened, he, Rossington, and Collins sat down and wrote this song that night.
Yeah, with cigarettes shaking in his fingers, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
His pants all wet. Yeah.
And this is one of the few songs that Lynyrd Skynyrd released as a single. Obviously, they didn't have a ton of years to do it, and it was their first major label release. They'd had some demos and other things, but this song did not chart. Funny enough, but
really,
yeah, it's crazy because you can't hardly listen to radio at all nowadays without hearing this song.
Oh yeah, and who's the guitarist for Lynyrd Skynyrd?
Gary Rossington.
Gary Rossington. So this opening guitar riff is so recognizable. I mean, you know the riff if you don't even know the song.
Yeah, it's amazing because you got this song, you've got Saturday Night Special, you've obviously got Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird, among others that are Simple Man. Tuesday's Gone. There are so many songs that are played on radio today, and the fact that they weren't huge hits, it really proves what fans and what good music can do. I mean, it doesn't need to have huge success to be a great song, and here we are 50 plus years later still talking about it, right?
Oh yeah, these guys have staying power.
Without a doubt. So what is your history with Lynyrd Skynyrd, Gimme 3 Steps?
Oh, ear burn. Although ear burn is a bit harsh of a word for this. I've heard this a ton. I get a kick out of this song. I wouldn't necessarily have known it was Lynyrd Skynyrd. It fits. I mean, Lynyrd Skynyrd, they're a good band. The hits that we've already gone over, yeah, I know all of them. I think Freebird's a little overrated. I think Freebird's a lot overrated.
I don't see Freebird as overrated. I see Freebird as overplayed and over... what would the word be? Not even overrated, but just talked about way too much. It's one of those things. It's kind of your Stairway to Heaven type of deal where it's an amazing band and it is their pinnacle song, but it's played so much and talked about so much. And as a casual fan or even somewhat of a diving a little deeper into the band, you kind of get tired of that kind of stuff.
Here's what I find so fascinating about Lynyrd Skynyrd. These guys are a band that makes songs that people today are still writing songs about their song. Is it Kid Rock that wrote, singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long?
Yeah, I mean, he
what a loser.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, come on. Make up your own stuff, dude. So this song, I've got some experience with it, and I love hearing it, but Lynyrd Skynyrd, being the novice to classic rock that I am, I don't know that I necessarily would have picked it out as, oh, that's Lynyrd Skynyrd, but I love this song. I do enjoy it. Anybody that's listened to this podcast, they know I like weird songs. This is a song. It's not necessarily weird, but I love the topic and that it's a guy giving his autobiographical view of what happened to him in a very tense situation at a nightclub.
So after listening to Gimme 3 Steps with the purpose of reviewing it, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this?
That's the cool thing about doing this podcast is listening to stuff to review. And this song holds up. This song really holds up. Like I said, that opening with the guitar riff, it's so well done. Gary Rossington is just a master on the guitar. And anybody that loves Lynyrd Skynyrd, that's probably the number one reason why they love Lynyrd Skynyrd is that lead guitar. Boy, he's good at it. And he's got his own style, and I think he's underrated for how good of a style he has. I mean, he's right up there with Jimi Hendrix. I mean, you recognize Gary Rossington guitar work just like you recognize Jimi Hendrix. I really enjoyed it. I think that all of the instruments are very well done, and the lyrics are so perfect for this song. Very straightforward, autobiographical story about a guy who's just out to have a good time dancing in the nightclub with some chick, right? And all of a sudden he gets approached by a guy holding a gun, staring down the barrel of a 44, and that ain't no fun, he tells us. But as soon as he sees a break in the conversation where the boyfriend, who's angry and he cares about this girl, he starts turning his anger, directing it towards her. Well, that's when this dancing guy decides, hey, I'm going to get out of here, and makes his cut and heads for the back door. Well done. Glad that he survived that incident, because we don't really know if this guy is as reasonable, like reasonably considering what this guy's telling him. Like, oh, I didn't know that she was with you. I just was here dancing, having a good time. I haven't kissed her, haven't messed with her at all. She's yours. I respect that. Let me go. You don't know if he's going to be reasonable about that, or if this is about to become a Florida man headline in the newspaper in the morning. I thoroughly enjoyed this song, and listening to critique it, I'm just amazed it didn't chart number one. It should have. This song is just pure gold, pure precious. What do you think about this one?
I love songs like this that have been part of the canon of rock music from the time they were released until today. Probably played more today than it ever was. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it didn't chart is amazing, because it just shows the staying power of good music. What I really like about this song is, you're the guy that's always into the lyrics, and a lot of times I'm more into the music, but this is a perfect storytelling song. And the way he rhymes, like I open up with saying, hey there, fella with your hair colored yellow, things like that. Or, wait a minute, mister, I didn't even kiss her. I just love the way the words flow. And whoever put those, I know Alan Collins, Gary Rossington, and Ronnie Van Zant wrote it together, but whoever put the words together did an amazing job on this. And if you listen to a lot of their other songs, they're very descriptive, working for MCA or Saturday Night Special, just different songs like that. Probably with this band, probably the song I don't want to hear anymore is Sweet Home Alabama. Mm-hmm. I have more of a severe ear burn with that song than I do Freebird, but Freebird's kind of there too. It's been a little too much, but I still love the song, no doubt. But this is a great song, and you hit it right on the head when you said recognizable guitar intro. And not only recognizable, a great guitar intro.
Oh, for sure.
The guitar through this whole thing is amazing. I mean, it's got a guitar lick after every verse, which I love. The bass in this song is amazing. It's mixed really well. The drums sound good in it. It doesn't suffer from that early 60s stuff where they're not mixed well. It's mixed really, really well. I'll say it again. I love the guitar solo after every verse. I think it fits well. I love how the guitar solo at the end just fades out. And I don't like fade outs, but I like how it fades out the guitar solo, which you got after each verse. The vocal, Ronnie Van Zant has an amazing voice for rock and roll. This band is great. I love this band. And the unfortunate part is I'm just kind of a casual Lynyrd Skynyrd fan. I really am. I own a few of their albums, but I pretty much only dove into a lot of their hits, and I really need to dive deeper into them. But yeah, a really good song.
Would you call this one of their hits?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess technically it's not one of their hits.
Yeah, because if it didn't chart number one, is it really?
It didn't even chart.
It didn't even chart. And that just blows me away, because maybe all the DJs between 1973 and now are just like, oh, this is excellent radio time filler. Maybe, but it's also a really fun song, and it's really well done.
Well, it brings you back to groups like Led Zeppelin. I mean, Led Zeppelin never had a number one song, but they were by far the biggest band in the 1970s. And so, the charts, let's be honest, are kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're what's popular or whatnot or what's selling. And I think a lot of the time, if you go to the payola thing that was going on where record producers and things were paying radio stations to play things, I think that played into a lot of it too. But I think really when it comes down to what do the people want to hear and what music is good music. And if you've got a song like this that didn't chart, but here we are 50 years later and you can't hardly turn on the radio without hearing it. And that goes for Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird and Stairway to Heaven and all those songs that you've heard way too much. Half the reason you've heard them way too much is because they're damn good songs and everybody wants to hear them.
Yeah, for sure. Because in the 1970s, all you could do was call up your local radio station and put in a request and then wait. And sometimes you'd be waiting 15 minutes, sometimes you'd be waiting an hour. But sooner or later, they would play that song. And enough people keep requesting it over and over and over again, the sooner they're going to play it again.
Yeah. So do you want to rate the song?
I do.
Song rating.
All right, if this is your first time listening, our rating system is pretty straightforward. 0 to 10, 10 being a masterpiece, and number 5 being smack in the middle. Okay, I give this one a very solid 9. I thoroughly enjoy this song. I think it's a great song, and listening to review it, there's not really anything that I can drop it much for. And it's excellent music. It's not necessarily a 10 for me. That's just personal preference.
That's why you rated it a 9.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hate me, and I'm completely wrong. If you're a huge Lynyrd Skynyrd fan out there, you're right. I'm wrong. But where do you put this one, Justin?
I'm not quite as high as you on this one.
Oh, you're even more wrong than mine.
Yeah, I'm more wrong than anyone. I rate the song an 8.5. I think it's a very solid song. I think it shows everything that Lynyrd Skynyrd was about, their musical style, the strong vocal, and especially their songwriting ability. I love the storytelling in this song. I love the rhyming in the song. I love the guitar in this song. Maybe I should be like you. I'm thinking now maybe I should have rated it higher.
Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed the song. And probably, if anything, what you were talking about earlier, I probably do suffer a tad bit of ear burn on this one.
Sure.
Just a tad bit, because I have heard it a lot. But when you sit down here and really listen to all the guitar licks and you're not just hearing it in the background on the radio or whatever, it is a different feeling. And yeah, I give this song an 8.5. It's a very solid song. Lynyrd Skynyrd's a band I probably need to explore a little more. I have heard all their early albums through a few times, but I just haven't dove into them as deep as I should.
Rattling off all the main top Lynyrd Skynyrd songs, I'd say this is probably my favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd song, because I'm not that keen on Freebird. I'm not that big on. I've got so much ear burn on Sweet Home Alabama. This song, I don't have that ear burn, and it's not so in your face like everybody shoves it in your face. This is just a nice song that comes on the radio, and it doesn't bother me when it does come on the radio. It's entertaining.
Yeah, this is a really good song. It's definitely not my favorite Lynyrd Skynyrd song, and I don't think it's their best song by far, but we'll definitely get to those at another point. But That's Lynyrd Skynyrd. Gimme 3 Steps. Send us an email and let us know what you think at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com, and send us some requests, what songs you want to hear us review. Let us know, but we really appreciate you listening. It does mean a lot to us, and so until next time,
see ya.
See you later.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.